Good evening, everyone. This PowerPoint slide is talking about how we can make hypothesis testing based on the visualizing. We will present different type of visualizing and how we will make the null and alternative hypothesis for each. The presentation being prepared and done by Ahmad Alkhatib. The agenda of this presentation, we will talk about an example when we are test for a mean. Then we will go to an example when we are comparing two groups. Then we will go and speak about the efficiency comparison. Then we will present the correlation test. And finally, we will talk about important takeaways when we are making our hypothesis. So first example is how we will make our null hypothesis and alternative hypothesis based on visualizing for test for a mean. The mean is the average or the center of our graph. So as a manager, for example, I need to know the average unit per month which I need for my warehouse. This is known as the mean. So for our example, the mean for this graph is 0. So the null hypothesis is our condition and it doesn't equal to 0. So the hypothesis for null will be number of detective wedges out of 100 which doesn't equal to 0. And the alternative hypothesis for our example will be the number of detective wedges out of 100 which do equal to 0. Our second example is when we are visualization when comparing two groups. We are comparing two different groups to see which is doing more, which group is more positive than the other one. So when we are comparing, yes, we are comparing each group mean, but at the same time we need to make a question which group is better, or which group is more positive, or which group is more better, and so on. So for our example, the null hypothesis will be the average major league team have more home run hitters than the minor league team, and the alternative hypothesis is the average major league team have less home run hitters than minor league team. Our third example is when we are visualization to see the efficiency comparison. Efficiency is for two different processes. For example, I need to know which is more efficient for the organization. I'm comparing, for example, two processes, and I need to know which process is better, which process will be making more units, for example. So for our example here, we have service, and we need to see if the queue is when it's served by single server is better, or when the queue is served by multiple queues is better. So our null hypothesis is we will see if the number served per hour is higher when single queue served in sequence if compared with single queue with multiple serves in sequence based on a number of hours observed. And the alternative hypothesis will be number served per hour is lower when single queue serves in sequence if compared with single queue with multiple serves in a sequence based on number of hours observed. Our fourth example here is when we are making correlation testing. The correlation is we are trying to see if there is a relation between two values. So it's easy. We need to know if there is a relation or if there is no relation. So then null hypothesis for our example is there is no relation between the bottled mile per gallon (mpg) and the weight of the various van. And the alternative hypothesis is saying that there is a relation between bottled mile per gallon and the weight of the various van. Last slide is talking about the important takeaways which I have to take into consideration when creating hypothesis tests and using visualization. So we have always to remember that the statistical is significance, meaning I'm trying to see or I'm trying to measure how unlikely it is that the result have to be occurred by a chance. I'm trying to increase the possibility to have a valid data and decrease the possibility of having data which is unlikely to be incorrect. And I have to remember that the null hypothesis is always correct unless the study shows it's not. So it's a hypothesis set up to be refuted in order to support an alternative hypothesis presumed true until statistical evidence in the form of a hypothesis test indicates otherwise. When using visualization, I have to remember that most measurements of a normal distributed population will be centered around the middle. Okay? Then we will see that the hub of the curve will be the mean. And the other important thing when I'm visualizing, I have to understanding my audience. When I understand my audience, I know which the best type of visualization will meet the audience attention. So it is important to keep in mind which type of visualization your audience will find legible. At the end, I would like to thank you all for watching this video, and I open the space for any questions.